Well, thanks for staying with us this morning. Security issues are next, and one was hoping we would never come here, but here we are again, especially in response to that Amnesty International report that says more than 112 people have been killed in Kaduna and Plateau states within a month. And the question then is, how did AI arrive at their conclusion? What were the yardsticks? And are there things that could have been done to ensure this never happened in the first place? Well, we have two people joining us this morning. First is Osai Ojigo, who is Director Amnesty International Nigeria. She joins us along with Dan Manjang, who is Commissioner for Information and Communication in Plateau State. We did reach out to Kaduna State as well to send a representative, but we didn't get any word back. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Let me begin with you, madam. It's quite staggering, the issues that you have raised in that report, and that so many people have been killed within a month. Can you take us through the process of getting the report out?
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. It's quite a challenging process because when people report that loved ones have died and that they are facing a lot of challenges in their country, you have to ensure that you are not only listening and reviewing what they're sending to you, but you yourself are able to, as Amnesty International, you're able, as a researcher, to validate and corroborate some of this information. So our research involved eyewitness statements from several sources on the ground, reports by the authorities themselves, media reports, and then trying to place people where they said they were when these attacks occurred. We also got information from morgues where bodies were deposited, and also incidents that were reported and were documented by other sources other than the villagers and the communities themselves. Then this information were put together and then analyzed, and this led to the release that we issued last week. So it covers quite extensive reviews, and some of the numbers that we've shared also, we always emphasize these were the ones that we're able, as Amnesty International, to independently verify.
Well, did it come to Amnesty International as a surprise? At least you are a Nigerian, and we've been talking about all these issues for quite a while. Shocking, unpleasant as it is, did it come to you as a surprise?
Not really, because we've seen this cycle of violence erupt from time to time. And a few years ago, we had released a report looking at the conflict and the clashes that happens between herders and farmers and communities, particularly in this not central and not western states. And what we found is that the constant attacks and reprisal attacks that happen, there's always early warnings. The authorities are always notified, but unfortunately, the responses are always slow. And even at that time, when we released this report in 2018, Time to End, you find that most of the clashes, villagers will say we called for help and nobody came to us. And it always seems to also intensify during the rainy season. And when people should be farming, should be in their communities and are holed up at home. So you find that it starts at the beginning of the year and then it starts picking up. And then it gets to this season and then there's several attacks and several reprisal attacks occurring. So the pattern is known. It's going to happen. So what are we doing to ensure that it does not repeat itself? That is where the bulk of the failure of the authorities lie.
Well, let's just talk then to the authorities. Mr. Manjang, you've heard it. I'm pretty sure you've seen the report as well. And I know, I would expect that the loss of one life is bad enough, but 34 within 1 month, that must really touch government in Plateau State in a very, very vulnerable place.
Well, yes. As a matter of fact, what I'm going to say is not to validate or invalidate what Amnesty International is saying, because we have had a very gory experience on the Plateau. In the life of the past administration, we lost there was a day that we lost over 400 people, 400 to 500 people in a day. I must say, it happens, but in a long time. That was very, very tragic. But for these days, I am not here to validate. And like you did say, the loss of even property and animal life, it calls for attention by the authority. And that is why we are up and doing to make sure that we safeguard the lives and property of the people. We have been sworn to safeguard the lives and property of people. And so even if property is lost and animals are lost, we are not happy as authority, and there's no authority that will be happy, not to talk of the loss of lives of human beings. These are people that their future is cut short. These are future leaders, future governors, future commissioners, future this and that, future technocrats. And so as authority, if you follow the news these days, the governor of Plateau State feels saddened. Even yesterday, he says he begs for forgiveness for things that happen to people, for the loss of lives and property, because he's the chief security officer of the state. And what that means is that there's no leader. It's not only the governor of Plateau State, but there is no leader in his right senses that would be happy that his people are being killed, because then on whose head do you govern? And so we take everything with all seriousness. If there's a crisis of this dimension, a lot of things happen. A lot of funds are diverted from construction, from agriculture. Instead of you to do things that will make meaning to people, you now move to humanitarian services. You now move to reconstruction. You now move to reconciliation. But as a government, and any other authority, it is the onus rests upon you to make sure that even if this is not stopped, that it is left at the barest minimum. And that is why we have put a lot in place in Plateau State to make sure that we do not experience this. But the issues keep coming. If maybe in the course of this discourse, we would be able to tell you what we have done in the past and what we're doing now and the projections into the future. But as a matter of fact, there is nobody, there's no authority that will be happy to see that his state is being burnt. And more so, we in Plateau State that pride ourselves as the home of peace and tourism, would be the last to see that this state is burnt. It happened in the past. We frowned at it. We're all in it together. And
well Mr. Manga, just one second, if you don't mind. Everything government is doing is, what government says it is doing. But when, according to the report, the slow and ineffective response by security officials is contributing to the attacks and reprisal in the state, people are getting away with crimes. People would wonder, what is government doing if it is slow and ineffective in responding to issues such as this?
At this time, you must be able to say which component of government is slow. All of us know, including you, that the chief security of every state is the governor of the state. But constitutionally, he does not command troops. And so if you have to apportion blames, you apportion blames to the appropriate authority. Because the chief, as a chief, that is why we are clamoring for, in some places, state police. In Plateau State, we are clamoring for community policing, so that the chief security officer of the state would be able to have teeth. He has teeth and he can bite. But so all of the chief security officers of the states, the governors in this case, have teeth, but they cannot bark, they cannot bite. And everybody knows this one. And so the onus rests upon squarely on the shoulders of those that are supposed to take responsibility. The governor, if you listen to the commissioner of police in Plateau State, the governor gave a marching order for them to occupy. And it remains there. It is not the governor's fault. And at some point, it will not even be the fault of the security that you have to apportion. You have to know the workings of the security. You have to know the workings of the machinery of government. And so
I'm trying to understand,
like
Mr. Manjang, my apologies. I'm trying to understand, exactly what you're saying. Now, if it is not the fault of the governor and it is not the fault of the police or the security architecture, then who will want to take responsibility for what is happening? As the report says, we already know that these things will happen. At least I understand that the governor or the chief security officer of the state always gets intelligence reports. And this is a reprisal. And it is not something that is coming new. Isn't there anything that could have been done in terms of collaboration of the state with the security apparatus to ensure that this doesn't happen again? It is not something that is new. It is something government knew before taking the job of protecting lives and property.
And that is why we have been able to put in institutions in place. And that is why the situation has not escalated. If government had not been proactive, particularly on the plateau, the situation would have escalated. There would have been no plateau today. If you look at the dimensions of the escalation of this crisis, I'm telling you that there was, in the life of the past administration, over 400 people that were killed in one night. And it has not happened like that since we came in, and we are not blaming that is past. But the government, at every point in time, government is proactive. The institutions we have set up in place are the reason for why the crisis has not escalated beyond what it is. And so if I might say, all we are doing is not to justify the government's action or inaction, but as a matter of fact, government knows its responsibility, and government the world over has limitations. It is these limitations that have to be surmounted. Somebody must take responsibility. In this case, the state governor has given an order according to the constitution. Somebody has to take responsibility, and the security did occupy, and that is why there is a plateau today. Otherwise, we wouldn't have anywhere that is called Plateau State today.
There are still questions, Mr. Manjang, around whether or not this could have been made impossible to happen. That it should never have happened in the first place. But we'll come back to that. Well, Madam, you have listened to the Commissioner for Information in Plateau State. How do you respond?
I think the first thing is for government institutions to recognize that they are a continuum and that they're a group. So to the people out there, government is government. So we know that there are federal, there are state authorities. We know that there are different divisions of labor. But when there's a crisis, when there's a situation, everyone expects their government to stand up, to sit up. You know the internal dynamics that are happening within the various agencies. And I think for us, the biggest issue is, can we even prevent the attacks? We haven't yet resolved the attacks that have happened in previous years in terms of prosecuting those that instigated the attacks, those that killed people, those that actually fuel the crisis so that they can benefit from it. it has been extremely difficult to show people that, crime doesn't pay. So you find that people are really literally getting away with it. So in the first instance, can we have a situation where the government can put in place strategies, tactics to prevent further attacks? Meanwhile, then use the time to retrace and find out who these culprits are and use them as examples to show that you cannot come and be displacing people in communities, you cannot come and be creating havoc and get away with it, and ensure that they can be punished according to the law. So these are some of the issues that would relieve confidence in the people and would address their immediate needs. We're very mindful of the fact that we are getting so many displaced people in registered camps, relying on family members. And Nigeria shouldn't be in a situation where you are constantly in a reactive mode. So something needs to give. And the issue is what tactics, what strategies can the authorities do? And they lean on those that they know have the powers to make these changes and come together in order to prevent these attacks and ensure impunity does not reign supreme.
Let me take that straight to Mr. Manjang this morning. We all know that Mango in Bassa local government is no stranger to this kind of conflicts, this kind of attacks. It's happened before, and the fact that it's happening again, almost unabated, is what is troubling here. And as Madam Ajugo said the other time, government is a continuum. Whoever is in seat, as far as the farmer is concerned, the people in Mango are concerned, government is government. Has there been any arrest and any prosecution that would have been a deterrence for anyone to make sure this doesn't happen again?
Yes, thank you very much. We have a local, let me just quickly say that we have a local government called Mangu. So your pronunciation is Meango, not Mangu, so that we will not miss the point for people that come from Plateau State. Having said that, whether there has been arrest, I would say yes, in the past and and presently, and the commissioner of police is in the best position to say how many. I don't have that figure now, but there are two things that are involved here. As a matter of fact, one, we know that government is a continuum, but one, we have to look at the issue of crisis merchants from local, national, and international. There are people that certainly benefit from this. And punishment, the second issue is we must look at punishment. For example, we have an anti-kidnapping law on the plateau here, signed by His Excellency. People have not been prosecuted. It is not the fault of the governor. People have been arrested. They are in police custody. We expect them to be taken to court for prosecution. And we expect that the time for prosecution will be such that it will be short. And then for people that they are still called suspects, for people that are found guilty, the courts should pronounce. And then we now leave it to the governor of the state to see whether because in Plateau State, kidnapping attracts a death penalty. And we now look at it and see whether the governor will sign the fact that the people should die or should be killed or not. And so you see, governance is at different levels. At some time, the courts were on strike and stuff like that. And people were caught on the daily basis. They were kept in police custody because you cannot free them because they are suspects. And so, like I said, government, we agree it's a continuity. We also agree that there are various strata of governance. What the governor has been able to do, he has done. Other strata of governors should be able to do their own bit. We expect that prosecution should be going on, and the judiciary should find a mechanism whereby they will prosecute these people within the shortest possible time, so that if you see a crime being perpetrated, it is because that the laws are not being applied.
It will seem, Mr. Manjang, it will seem like you're trying as much as possible to abdicate the state of any responsibility in this matter. I know that at least there is an office of prosecution of sorts in the government of Plateau State at the moment. So are you waiting for another? Are you outsourcing the prosecution of people arrested under the law made by Plateau State and signed by the governor?
No, I'm not abdicating. If from the beginning, if you hear what I said just yesterday, His Excellency, the Governor of Plateau State, Right Honorable Simon Bakola Long, apologized. He apologized to people of Plateau State, and he did apologize to Nigerians that if people are being killed on the plateau as a leader, he apologizes and he takes responsibility. And it is
Mr. Manjang, forgive me for butting in. Part of that report of Amnesty International also says that beyond just making these statements is the need for us to ensure these things doesn't happen again. As you said earlier, these things have happened. They have been pre this government. There have been days where we have hundreds of people dead in one day. The fact that there is even one single loss of life, you have also corroborated that, is bad enough. So is there any way, has there been any investigation, for instance, to know, okay, what has happened in the past and who are the people involved? And how do we ensure that we collaborate, we communicate with these people so that these things don't happen again? They do not do the same thing that they are doing now, seeing to the lives of many people being lost and the lives of the people who survived them being rendered, unpredictable.
Yes, there was a time that the state government had to go against community leaders and arrested them. They were arrested, they were given on bail. If you listen to the Commissioner of Police in Plateau State, there are people that were given on bail and they are being prosecuted. And so arrests are being made, prosecution is going on. But like I did say, we must step up our prosecution until we get it to the... Otherwise, if people are not punished, we'll be sounding like broken records every now and then, and lives will continue to be lost. But I can tell you that there are institutions, there's dialogue that is going on, and that is why the situation has not escalated more than what it is. At every point in time, we have a crisis of that dimension, or even if we have early warning signs, because we have people that we have the Operation Rainbow that has an early warning sign mechanism in their office, and we have people that have been employed, have been recruited. About 3,500 constabularies recruited and sent to the 17 local governments. And they're helping with intelligence gathering, and that is what we are doing. And I also join the fact that people must be prosecuted. We have a prosecution, but the prosecution should be up and doing. We don't have to blame them now. If you look at if you ask them, they will look at the issue of personnel and other things. But all the people are saying, including government, is that the people must be seen to be punished to serve as a deterrent to others. And these punishments are the responsibilities are in various strata. There's nobody that is happy for the governor to come out to say that he apologizes on behalf of what is happening, because of what is happening. It speaks volumes if we want to be fair to him.
Okay. Well, Mr. Jugo, you have listened to him again, and I don't know how satisfied you would be in that one. But let me ask you this. How much of these attacks do you think has to do with the economy of the people who are involved?
I think it's a very complex situation. There are so many issues involved. So there's the issue about food security. So definitely, we all know the prices of food in our country has risen, exponentially. And part of this, because farmers need to be able to plant and reap the harvest in due course. And the cost of conflict means that oftentimes farmlands are left unattended, harvests are lost. At the same time, we also have herders that are moving their cattle across various parts of the country. And there have been cases of cattle being missing, cattle being stolen. And there's this tension that everyone is trying to just survive. Everybody's trying to just make ends meet. Sadly, there isn't much social protection by the authorities, by the government, whether it's in terms of health, in terms of housing, in terms of benefits that people can access should they fall into bad situations. We always used to say that you just need one major illness for you to lose everything you have, because you're going to sell everything you have in order to get better. So there are all that. Then you have historical years of distrust in groups. So whenever there's an incident, the other group instantly wants to defend their people, even if they've committed a wrong. There's this inability for us to be able to separate our religious, our ethnic affiliations in trying to address issues of injustice in incidents that have occurred. So when you look at these various layers and these various complexities, you find that there's not one single reason why these attacks keep happening, but that it's a cumulative effect. And the issue is who can lead the people? Who can lead people to peace? Who can lead the people to justice? Who can lead the people to a situation where we're able to live harmoniously amongst one another? Recognizing that when a wrong has happened, there must be sufficient remedy. And that is the constant circle. Everybody on all sides are feeling some sense of injustice, some sense of unfairness that has been meted to them. And so when we talk about human rights of people, it's about the right of the people to live with dignity. And so the communities that are affected, are they living in dignity? Are they free from fear? And when crimes have been committed against them, have they been resolved regardless of whose interest is at stake in this situation? So the justice system needs to set up appropriately to respond quickly. The security agents need to be able to respond, to investigate, to prosecute, to ensure that regardless of who it is, the rule of law is held to account and everyone who has infringed the law faces the law. And finally, people seek leadership from the government authorities, whether it's in the person of the state governor, in the person of the president, in the person of their local government chairpersons, their chiefs, their religious leaders, to take leadership in finding solutions and long-lasting solutions, not just, please just forgive each other and make peace, but long-lasting solutions that will address the root causes of these conflicts and the root causes of the financial and socioeconomic conditions people have found themselves, and then begin to build again, build trust, build communities, build an information network that knows that when they cry for help, they would be heard and the responses would happen. So it's a lot of things that people have gone through, but it takes a few steps in order to begin to address these issues. Thank you.
Well, you raised the issue of trust there, and one would say that's also multi-layered, because if we were to draw from the statements made by the Commissioner for Information in Plateau State, part of the things that he has said also indicates that there is a need, that there is perhaps a measure of collaboration between the federal authorities, agencies of the federal government and the state government that need to collaborate a little strongly, a little stronger. It would seem from what he has said that collaboration isn't very, very strong. And as far as the people are concerned, it doesn't matter who is bringing the help. Let that help just come. How do you see that gap, so to speak, being breached in order for this not to continue?
So in the first place, we wouldn't want to interfere so in the way the government agencies relate with one another. But one thing is clear, that no one is happy with what is going on. And in situations like this, we find ways to advocate, even amongst our colleagues, to find a lasting solution. I think that the state has, yes, we recognize that they have a very tough task at hand, but it's about what's the bigger picture. What do you want to achieve? And what you want to achieve is to get help when needed for your people, is to be able to ensure that everyone can live a life free of and free from harm and can enjoy that life. So it's not enough to be alive, because there are people in IDP camps now, but they are thinking, I'm so poor now, my farmlands are gone, my houses are gone, I don't have anything to return to. So that alone is even mental torture for this person. To find ways through which they can bring all the relevant actors to the table to find these solutions. Because ultimately, if these solutions are not found, the reprisals will continue. We'll finish this year. Next year, we'll be talking about these issues again. It's about finding that point of convergence that would get those that you need in order to provide the protection and to help you with the prevention to the table that would move these things forward. We know that it's a big task for the government of the day, but we know that it is not impossible, and it should be prioritized in a way that you go into those conversations, into those discussions with the overall objective, because ultimately we cannot continue like this. The insecurity is rising, and we know that for those of us that are in positions of influence, we should find other people of influence and other institutions of influence that can help address the issues.
There is one thing we do not want, madam, and that is for the people to take the law into their own hands. But in the event that government doesn't do the needful as and when due, and as your report says, slow to respond, there is a likelihood that the people may be considering, look, if we're not going to get help from government, maybe it's about time we begun to, help ourselves. Do you see that happening?
It's already happening. In fact, the reason why there was so much activity in that month was because people just felt, we have only ourselves, so we're going to take arms and fight. And that is why this is a dangerous trend. We shouldn't allow this to lead to organized crime in those communities. This is an early warning that where people feel that they are not being, their case is not being dealt with, they are going to take up arms, they are going to try to find means through which they can protect themselves outside of the law. And that is also wrong, that is also unlawful, but it's really about the security agents stepping in quickly enough to not only stop this from escalating, but justice needs to be seen to be done. It's not only about saying it. It's not only about saying, okay, we've arrested people. When you arrest people, what happened to them? Giving that feedback to the community, they are being prosecuted. They've been taken to court in this place. Having that kind of visible justice working is something people need to see. And then it will discourage others from taking up arms and then using that as justification. Because even though there are communities that were not affected by these clashes, they are caught at cross purposes. You find that criminal elements will exploit the situation under the guise of we are harming and protecting ourselves because the government has failed us. So government should not create that environment at all for criminal elements to hijack the situation and make it worse.
Well, Mr. Manjang, you have listened to that, what Madam said, that it's early warnings. People are beginning to take up arms to defend themselves because government is not acting quickly enough. Lives are being lost. Livelihoods are being lost. How is the government of Plateau State taking this on board?
Well, as like I said, we have been able to put up institutions. We are saddened by the fact that we continue to kill ourselves in this manner. And I can tell you that Plateau State, we have set up institutions that are speaking. One of the the issues is that we must be able to, religious leaders must step in, community leaders must step in to be able to restore our values. That is what we are doing conscientiously on the plateau. For the institutions, the machinery of government, I consistently say that there are various layers. And here in Plateau State, we are trying as much as we can to deal with the criminal elements. You see, criminal elements are united in criminality. And so when you are able to identify them, deal with them accordingly, it has worked for us in the past. We have dealt with some of the criminal elements. It has reduced to the barest minimum the criminality that we are witnessing in the plateau. Having said that, the issue of people that benefit from these crimes must be looked at seriously. There are institutional issues.
Wow, hope we'll be able to get him back, because it'll be nice to know who are the people that benefit from what he's talked about, and is there any way the government of Plateau State want to make that known to everyone? Well, madam, you have had to interface with the different communities, and you know what they say. Some of them, according to your report, have had to run back to the IDP camps.
Am I being heard?
Okay, well, you are being heard now, so please go ahead. There's something you said about those who are benefiting from this uprisings. You want to tell us what the government knows about them? Mr. Manjang, are you still there? Okay, well, Madam Ojugo, how do we ensure that this does not happen again? Is there anything the people themselves can do beyond taking arms against themselves? Is there anything you think the people themselves can do to at least maybe collaborate, talk with themselves, have community conversations, so that, these, issues do not continue to escalate to the point that lives are being lost?
Thank you. I think one of the things that the communities can also do is to manage rumors and manage information that is often construed within very, very discriminatory language. I think people should work towards ensuring they get to the facts oftentimes. A lot of speech that is shared tends to be colored about past experiences, colored in terms of people's previous incidents that have occurred, rather than what has happened now and what needs to be addressed. But we recognize that a lot of things are emotive. Many people have lost family members, so it's quite traumatic experiences that people have gone through. And so communities need to find ways through which they support one another, but more importantly, that they are getting to the facts rather than allowing it to be colored by people's previous experiences in these situations, which can then lead to incomplete or insufficient information to addressing who actually has spearheaded the latest attacks. Okay. That said, communities have done a lot in terms of reaching out to the security agents whenever these things occur. And I think they should continue doing that, and they should continue finding out who are those who have been assigned to their communities, get their phone numbers, get access to them, ensure that they begin to build those bridges with them as well.
Well, thank you very much, Madam. Mr. Manjang, we're closing now, but you want to have some conclusive statements within 15, 20 seconds?
Yes, what I would say is that humanity must retrace its values. Government cannot do everything for the people, but we know that government has a responsibility. the people also have a responsibility to make sure that we love one another, that we eschew our prejudices, and we be seen to be our brothers' keepers. Now that we have a humanitarian problem in our hands, we as Africans know that we are brothers' keepers. And it is practically impossible for government to do everything for humanity. We must choose to live together as brothers and sisters and accommodate one another.
Absolutely.
Accommodate our ethnicity, accommodate our politics,
Yes,
accommodate
Mr. Manjang.
our humanity.
Yes, Mr. Manjang, all of that is correct, but do not forget that there is also the responsibility of government, which is to protect lives and property, and we cannot expect any less.
And even,
all right,
and
well,
even
we're completely out of time, Mr. Manjang, so to really have to let it go now. We have to thank you very much for your time this morning. Dan Manjang is Commissioner for Information and Communication in Plateau State and joined us along with Osai Ojiho, who is Director, Amnesty International, Nigeria. Thank you so much, both of you, for your time and perspectives this morning, and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sunrise Daily continues after now with one big issue, because it contains information about conversations about the largest population in Nigeria. Stay with us.